Greetings, pilgrims. Welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage. And as you can see here with our screen, it's time to get the party started. So I'm going to show you today how I went about creating my disco kind of club lights. I originally created this idea for my Neon Environment Challenge, but I wanted to show you today how you can create the same effect in both Unreal and Unity. So here we are in Unreal, and what we can see is we have our character dancing, and he's from Mixamo. So if you want to go to their website, you can find characters and download animations. I'm not going to go over how to do the animations today because it's not really the point, but I will provide the floor you see here, the walls, and full tutorial today on how to do all of the effect here. So what we have is our characters just kind of showing off his dance moves, but we have our lights here, and the lights are the big thing, is they are randomly meandering within a range inside the dance floor in that space. So they have a pivot point up in the corners, and then there's this light cone, and the light cone will only meander within a certain range inside the dance floor, and it won't go outside of that range. So when I first set out to do this for the club in my Neon Environment Challenge, I wanted to make sure that these lights would meander properly, and I was working with lots of math with rotation, trying to figure out only within a certain range and make sure that I wasn't getting gimbal lock or dealing with quaternions and lots of numbers, and it just was way too much. So I knew there must be a simpler way, and of course there is. So here today I'm going to show you how to do that in both engines, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have. So if I stop play here, and let's take a look at the world, you'll notice that there's a couple of objects at this character's feet. So what I'm going to do is go over here, and I'm going to turn on the visuals to it. I have the visuals turned off for the effect, but I'm going to turn it on to explain the idea, and then we'll go ahead and recreate it together, all right? So over here, I'm going to turn on the visuals. So let me just do that real fast. Visible is true. Visible is true. And you should see these weird things appearing here. Compile and save. Okay, so now if I hit it again, you'll see these weird UFO-looking traffic cones moving all over the place. So what these are is these are our look-at targets, and our lights are actually sort of like security cameras that are constantly looking at an individual target. And the reason I made the cones with the boxes is the boxes were for the general movement, and then the cone was to make sure that it sticks up out of the floor so that when it moves beyond a certain point, I can still see it to know where its position is in space. So it's purely representative of its location. We don't see it at all during the game, so we're going to turn that off, but we'll build it with it on so you guys can see how it's working. Okay? Let's go ahead and stop that. I'm going to turn off the visibility of these things again, because we don't really want to see them. There we go. Okay, so this effect is in two parts. We have the targets themselves, and we have the cameras up here in the corners. As you can see, there's a cone for the light cone effect, and there's actually a light there as well. So it will light up your subjects, and we'll work on both of those one at a time. So we're going to start with the actual targets. So down here in my content browser, I'm going to right-click and say Blueprint Class Actor. I'm going to say BP_toot_target. Okay, enter. And I'll double-click that to bring that up, and bring that up right here so you guys can see that. So here is our target. Nothing special in the viewport. You don't really need anything in the viewport at all, but we are going to add a box so we can see it, okay? So add a cube. So I went add component, cube, and then I'm going to take this cube and I'm going to scale it down a bit. Something more like that, like a pizza box, just so that we have a representation of it in the world and we know where it is visually. Okay, so that's all we have to do here. So let's jump over to the event graph. So in the event graph, we need to do two things. One, we need to get the position where this thing begins in the world, and we're going to use that as our origin point. So you can put this anywhere you want, and then within a range around that, it'll move around, okay? So I'm going to go over here to collision, and I'm going to turn off collision. So no collision, because we don't want it to affect anything. And now we're going to create a couple of variables, all right? So over here, I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it start POS, start position, all right? And this start position is going to be a vector. There we go. And I'm going to compile and save and turn that visible. That means that we can see it from all kinds of places, okay? off of the event begin play, I'm going to drag my start position and say set. Okay, so we're going to click over here, say right when we begin the game, I want you to set this variable equal to something. What do I want it to set to? Well, I'm going to take the default scene root, I'm going to drag that in, and I'm going to drag off of this and say get world location. Okay, so let's move all this up a little bit so we can have some room here, and then we're going to plug that in. So all this is saying is right when we begin, go ahead and grab the world position of this target and store it in a variable so we can access it later. Perfect. All right, now off of the event tick, we're going to do some stuff. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is do a delay. It sounds strange to start off by doing a delay, but you'll see why. We're gonna do a lot with this. So I'm going to set a delay of 1 second. Then I'm going to say move component to, and this is going to move something in the world to a position in the world. All right, makes sense. Now what we're going to do here is I'm going to come off of here and say delay, and this is going to be a pretty long delay, 3 seconds. And then when I'm all done with that, this delay is going to reach all the way back into our first delay. So we're going to get a loop here. It's just going to keep going. All right. Now over here, we're going to do some stuff to feed it into these values, because right now it's going to move it to 0, 0, 0. We don't want that. So what we want to do is get this variable now. So I'm going to pull this out and say get. So up here we are setting it. We're filling the bucket with a value. Down here we're going to take the value that is in that bucket and use it. So over here I'm going to drag off and I'm going to say random point in bounding box. Select that. Now for our box extent, I'm going to right click and say split struct, meaning it's actually 3 values in one, and I want to see each value individually. There we go. And I'm going to fill in these values. For my example, the values here are negative 450, 350, and then Z we're going to fill in programmatically. So I'm going to pull out start position again and say get, but this time I'm going to right click here and do the split struct, and I'm only going to use the Z value. So this means that the origin is going to be exactly where it is, but the extent, think of it as negative 450 on the left and 450 on the right, 350 forward, 350 behind us, but then 0 on the Z. We don't want it to change position up and down. I think it still does anyway, but this limits it, so that way we don't have it going like way into the floor above us. It's just kind of where it should be. Okay, so then this is going to go into our target location. We're not going to worry about the rotation. 0, 0, 0 is just fine, but we do need what component, and the component we need is our default root. So let me drag him in. There we go. There you go. So component is what do I want to move? Where am I moving it to? And then this says every tick, wait a second, move this. Now how fast do we want to move it? I'm going to say 2 seconds. So it's going to wait 1 second, 1/1000. It's going to spend 2 seconds moving it there, 1/1000, 2/1000. Then it's going to wait 3 seconds, and then it's going to loop all the way back over here to wait a second, do it again. Okay? Seems like a lot, but that's what's going to help us move it around. So this guy's all done. We'll compile and save. Now that we have that guy, let's put him somewhere so that we can see him, okay? I'm going to put him over here, right there. And now if I hit play, and I can't walk through here because the walls are in the way. So let's destroy some walls. Construction. There we go. Destroy some walls. Now if I hit play and I back up and look at him over here, we should see him moving around. And I don't see him yet. You know why? Because I bet we made him invisible, didn't we? No, he is visible. Okay, he's moving around and we can't see him, so where did he go? So let's compile and save. We'll take a look. There he is. Okay. Get my fingers on the keyboard properly. There he is. He's moving around. He's just going through the floor, so we can't quite see him just yet. Okay, perfect. So he's there. So now we have our target moving around in a random position within a range. around where he starts. Perfect. So now let's make the cameras follow him. So for our cameras, our actual lights themselves, let's go ahead and right click, Blueprint Class Actor, BP underscore toot underscore light. I keep saying camera because it's like a security camera. Anyway, there's our light. So we're going to choose that guy. Now, he needs a couple of things. If you want to have an actual model of like a light or a camera or whatever, up here, let's go Add Component. And I'm going to choose Static Mesh. And over here, you can pick what mesh. So if you model something and import it, it'll be available in this dropdown. So for me, what did I choose? Let's see. Yes. I chose down here under Shape. It's called Narrow Capsule. Okay, there we go. So that's what my actual lights look like in the scene, just so I have something to know that it's moving and I can tell the rotation is working. Okay, so underneath of that, I'm going to do another static mesh, but actually I'm going to use, there it is, cone. So this cone, and I've got him in a crazy amount of scaling, but what we do here is I'm going to scale it, kind of like that, and then rotate it like that, and move it into position. Something like that. Okay? Now, you can add a light as well. For me, the lights don't really seem to be showing up all that well. I'm on an older version of the engine right now, so if you have the newer version with the fancy lights that have like the God rays and everything, it really shows up nicely. But I'm going to assign a material, and we'll go over how to make this as well, but I have a light cone material here. So there we go. Okay. So that's all there is to the construction of this. Now let's get into the actual coding of it. And the coding is incredibly simple. So on the event tick, every tick, we want to do something. What do we want to do? Well, we want to set our world rotation. Okay. There we go. And I don't want the cone, but I want the whole scene root. There we go. So that's all we want to do, but now we have to tell it, where should I rotate you to? You know, what position should you rotate to? Well, that's going to be a little bit harder to do, but not impossible. So what we're going to do is we need to give this a special kind of rotation, which is a find look at, and it needs two things. It needs a target, and it needs what it needs to rotate. So what we're going to rotate is the overall mesh. Okay? Now for our target, we're going to create a variable for that. So variable right here. And we're going to call this target. And it is going to be of a very specific type of BP underscore, BP underscore toot target. And we want it to be a reference. Okay, there we go. So let's compile and save and turn that as visible and drag that into the world. And we are going to get. Okay, now what we can do is from the target, I'm going to drag off. I'm going to get actor location. Where are you in the world? Okay. Now from my mesh, and this would be your camera or your light, whatever your model is. For me, it's the capsule. I'm going to drag out here and say get world location. Okay, where is it in the world? The difference is this is an actor, which is the whole thing, and this is get location of this piece of my actor, which is the whole thing. All right, so let's move these over a little bit. And now from this, I can drag out and say find look at rotation. So it'll find, it's going to do the math for us, and it's going to find the rotation that will match to make this look at this. And that's the value we want to put in there. And that's it. So now we hit save. Now if we go back into our world, let's bring one of these guys into the world. So our tutorial light is right here. And if I bring this guy up here and hit play, let's back up and go over here. And you can see our cone value here. And look, it's not doing it because we haven't hooked it up yet, okay? So let's hit stop. Now what we're going to do, it's giving me errors saying, hey, I can't do the thing you want me to do. That's because our tutorial light here is looking at a target and we haven't given it a target yet. So here in our inspector, we have a thing called target, and I'm going to select it. So I'm going to click here and say tutorial target. That's the thing you should look at. So let's hit save, hit play, and if I back up, now you can see he's rotating around and he's tracking it perfectly. And that's the whole logic behind it, is we're constantly looking at a target, but by making our target invisible to the world, the effect is that our lights kind of randomly meander. And that's what we've got going on here. Very cool. Okay, so that's how we do this in Unreal. Now, how will we do this in Unity? So let's bring up Unity, and here I've got the exact same setup, okay? Same models, and just different code because of the way Unity code works. So let me hit play, and you'll take a look, and you'll see that over here I can walk into the scene, and you'll see here in a second, it kicks up, and now all the lights are moving around. And you can't see them as well here because I don't have the actual cones. I just have the lights. But if you look at the character, it's clear. You can see the lights are moving across his surface. Okay. Now, if I were to select my lights, which I just called cylinder here, but if I hit play, you can see on the right here, you can see them all moving around. So I walk up into the scene, and now the club is alive. There we go. And everything's moving around, and they're following their targets. So it's the exact same idea, just here's how we implement it here. Okay? So to do this, our cylinders all have a script called look at this. Okay? And each of these, same kind of thing, has a look at target, and that target is a box that is moving around. Okay? So our box, let me take a look at this. So our box is called Disco Box, right? So over here we have our Disco Box. So if I look up here, Disco, there we go. So here's one of them. It's our whole area. Disco Box 1, 2, 3. They're all in this area. And they are invisible to the world. Mesh render is turned off. So this is the same thing as inside of Unreal. When we clicked visible off, we turn them off the mesh renderer here to make sure that you don't see them in the world because you don't need to. But they have this script on them, and we're going to go over the script really quick. And this has a little bit more finesse put into it, but it's the same idea. Okay, so let's turn that off. There we go. So to create that, we have our box, and they're all within this area right here. But they all kind of move around based upon the origin. So the scripts for this are two scripts. The look at this script is simply this. On update, transform.look at target, okay? And the public transform of look at target. So you're giving it a transform, a position in space to look at. And if we, by making it public, inside the inspector here, we can drag and drop those. So for example, our cylinder 1 right here, the drag and drop right here is Disco Box 1. So I would just click and drag and drop what you want it to look at. There you go. So you could have a light follow your character by putting your character into that spot. Now, our other script is a little bit more complex, but not too bad. So to begin with, we need a couple of variables. And these are all public so that we can see the values and edit them in the inspector. You can make them private when you're happy with it. So we have a vector 3, move to. Where is the box going to move to? Our current position. We have a float of position tolerance, which we don't really use, but you could use this in the future. I have some comments here about how you could improve this. Excuse me. We have a float of maximum range. We have a float of time to wait. And we have a float of move speed. So here's how it works. On start, we have current position is equal to this.transform.position. So we're storing that value, just like we did in Unreal, where we create the variable and then at event begin play, we're kind of storing it. So start here is the Unity equivalent of event begin play. Then we're going to invoke repeating, move the box. So this is our looping that we did, okay? So this is the same thing where we did the begin delay, move to, delay, loop back around on ourselves. Same thing. We're going to loop it every 5f, which is 5 float, loosely in 5 seconds. And then time to wait is a variable for how long do we want to wait between when we move it. Okay? So it's going to wait 5 seconds to start. And then it's going to, every time to wait, we're going to move. So on update, this is the same as the event tick inside of Unreal. This.transform.position is equal to vector3.move towards this.transform.position move to 0.1 float. So what we're saying is, on update, I want you to take my position and move towards my position, between my position and where you want me to move to, and then a delay. Okay? So the move the box that gets called repeatedly is down here. And all the move the box does is get where we're going to move to. So on update, we're moving to the position, but every time to wait, every second or 2 seconds, we're calling down here to say, give me the next value that we're about to use in the update, okay? So here it says, get a new random position within our box. Move to equals new vector 3. And what we're doing here is choosing a random position. So this is random.range minus max range to max range. So that means that whatever value you put in, so you put in 3, it's going to draw a line in the middle and then say -3 over here and +3 over here. So that's the range. So between that for the X, 0 for the Y, because in Unity, Y is up and down, whereas in Unreal, Z is up and down, which is why in Unreal we had the X and Y filled in with numbers, but the Z we got from our start position, okay? So a little different here. Y is up in Unity. And then our Z here is the same thing. Random.range minus range to max range, okay? And then down here, this is where you would use the tolerance if you wanted to. I don't have it set up to do that right now, but if you did, we're going to look at our X and Y, our X and Z position, and then compare it with our tolerance. And if it is not within the tolerance, then we need to do something, which means we need to nudge it back within the tolerance. But don't worry about that because that's not filled out here, but that's there for you advanced users if you want to use that. Okay, so with those 2 scripts complete, and those 2 scripts will be available for download, so you can look at them more carefully if you have trouble reading it here on the screen in the video, or if you don't understand it right away, you can look at them and you take your time with them, okay? So with those 2 things complete, all you have to do is create 2 objects and put them on them. So for example, let's create a cube. All right. So here's my cube. Come over here, cube, please. Let's bring them over here closer to where we are. There we go. So this cube, I'm going to put the one script on him that makes him a disco box, okay? Boom. There it is. And I can give it a tolerance, a max range. I'm going to give him a really small range of 3, okay? And time to wait, 1. And move speed, 1, okay? That's it. Then I'm going to create another object. Actually, I'm just going to borrow one of our cameras here. One of our lights from here. I'm going to borrow this guy, okay? So I'm going to duplicate this guy. I'm going to move him over. And move him closer to this. So all this object is a cylinder with a spotlight created as his child. So all you do is cylinder, then game object, light, spotlight. Here, I'll bring them up here. Come here. So many disco floor panels. Okay, so this should be cylinder 3. Yeah, there he is. So make him a child and then move him to 0, 0, 0. There he is. Spotlight right there. And I do have to rotate him on, let's see, this is the x-axis. So let's rotate him up to 0. There we go. So now that he's facing, that's kind of the front of the cylinder, if you will, okay? So I'll delete the old spotlight just to show you that this is totally from scratch. And then here we'll remove this. So now he's all set, and I want to tell him that you're going to follow this. So I'm going to click and drag the look at script and put it on here. And it says, what should I look at? And we're going to say this box which is, I'm going to call it new box. Okay. So I'm going to select this cylinder again. And I'm going to drag and drop new box. So where's new box at? New box is right here. Click and drag, put them on there. So now we hit play. We can see it right there moving. Now new box is going to move all over the place wherever he wants to. But if I move over here, you can see him, we can watch him move. And you can see it in both views here. In the play view on the left, it's moving around our dance floor. And in the inspector view on the right, we can actually see, because I have it selected, you can see those lines from the cone. You can see it kind of in the editor. It will show you where that cone is, even though you can't see the light. And you can see that it's moving and it's following it. And that's all we did, was we just assigned the two scripts, and there you go. Everybody's happy. Everybody's moving around. And we're all set in two different editors. So there you go. Two different IDEs. We've completed this effect. We have our fancy disco lights. All you need now is the thumpa-thumpa music and maybe a disco ball, and you're all set. So as always, guys, I really hope you have enjoyed. I apologize my voice. I've had an upper respiratory infection, so I'm a little rough, but I wanted to get the video out for you guys, and all of the scripts will be available on the website. There'll be a link in the description for the download. You'll be able to download the scripts, all the models I created for this, and all the textures and everything. If you want to have the environment, you're welcome to it. I hope you have enjoyed very much. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, if you have any ideas for an episode, anything that you want me to look at doing, please let me know. That list is growing, so I apologize if it takes a little bit, but there's 1,800 of you guys now, which is amazing. Thank you so much. We're burning down the list. We're going to get there, and we'll just keep learning and growing, and that's what it's all about. So until next time, guys, keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.